Hey everyone, so we're gonna be listening to, I think, Mac Miller's album Swimming, which unfortunately came out a couple months before he died. And of course, I want to say rest in peace to Mac Miller before I even say anything about this because he seems like such a nice guy, and especially since he died so young, it's regardless of whether his music's great or not, it's very unfortunate. So that's how I wanted to at least kick this off before we even get the video started. So I know that I've been gone for a bit. I have been gone for somewhat of not really a ton, but it's like I haven't been posting this consistently. You might know I've been working on an album, which I'm gonna hold back a bit because I don't want it to. I don't want to get it out too early because I kind of did that with a little bit of singles, and I'm going to have to remix all of those. And I feel like I don't really have the skills quite yet to sort of get that great of what I want it to be like. So for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys a mixtape. Some of those songs that will be on the mixtape will be in the album. Some of those that I've already kind of worked on from the album will be in the mixtape, and you'll see them in the album. So that's kind of how it's going to work. Yeah, I don't have a release date yet. I gotta still work on it. It won't be too long. I'm gonna try to get it out sometime this year, but yeah, I gotta hold the album back because of that. I already have a single release that's on the mixtape. It's called Sad Emotions. Go check it out. It's in the link in the description. I'll link my second channel in the description. You can go to videos. It's the first thing that pops up. I'll just link the song in the description, or you can go to my about page on this channel and you can go to my second channel and then check it out. It's the first thing. It's the first video on there so far. Without further ado, I just wanted to sort of get that, not really off my chest, but like, sort of just explain that. But yeah, let's get into reacting to Swimming. Okay, so the first track is called Come Back to Earth.
My regrets look just like texts I shouldn't send.
It sounds good.
I got neighbors that more like strangers. What I won't tell you.
Singing's great.
Probably never even tell my.
Okay, well that was Come Back to Earth, and I really like that. I felt like with this track, I don't know, I really like the metaphors he uses, sort of like saying my regrets looked like text I shouldn't send, basically saying that, in sort of metaphorically saying that his regrets are sort of like a text that you shouldn't send to people in a way, and basically saying that he has neighbors that are like strangers to him, that feel like strangers to him now. And also the way he uses the swimming metaphor, I think in a way kind of helps with the album, sort of saying that he now feels content with himself. He now feels at peace with himself in a way, but at first he was drowning and he was struggling, but now he's just swimming. I don't know, I really like this. I feel like it's gonna sort of have what I feel about the rest of the album, because, and also the production's great. This is phenomenal. The Divine Feminine, which I have listened to, I felt like with it wasn't as it was definitely a nice shift, because I felt like I think that's when he shifted toward the sort of jazzy feel, if I'm not mistaken. But I think this is a more smoother, because this was before Circles, obviously, and I think the production's a lot nicer on this than in The Divine Feminine. Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited for the next track. So let's just get into that. Okay, so the next track's called Hurt Feelings.
I'm always saying I won't change, but I ain't the same. Everything's different. I can't complain. Don't know what you missing. Shame on you. Yeah. Shame on you. Everything's strange.
I love the mixing. The production on this is honestly great. I love it way more than Divine Feminine. I think my only issue is the endings tracks. I feel like that's gonna be an issue where they play the instrumental too much at the end. This one does it, and the first one did it. I forgot the mention that. Okay, well, that was definitely another great track, I think. Out of all of them, in a way, it's like him showing that, saying, I'm not the same. I'm not the same person I used to be. I definitely did change because of things that happened, and there were things that did sort of, I guess, in a way, break him down, and sort of, and sort of basically, in a way, just kind of showing how he did change, how he is a different person than he was, and how even though this is still happening, he's still not going to stop. He's still going to continue to do what he is doing, I guess. And also, like, it's starting to show, I guess, that he sort of is sort of like distracting himself with alcohol and other things, sort of to, I guess, to sort of get away from those hard feelings that he has had. It's hard to exactly judge all of what's going to happen because this is the only first two tracks, but there's definitely like a lot to unpack. Okay, so the next track is called What's the Use, which is even longer than the other ones. I guess they just keep getting longer as it goes along. The production just keeps getting better, I feel like. But I will say, these endings and beginnings with the instrumentals go on for too long. The hooks in this are great so far. I honestly don't even know what to say. The production was great, of course. I mean, I expected it to be great, but I feel like this one had the best production out of all of them. It also, like, it again shows the distractions that he's having in his life, in like the way he distracts stuff to, like, instead of really facing his problems, I guess, in a way. And it also shows like how, like, in a way, how he feels like, once again, somewhat like content with himself, I guess is the best way to say it. And like it says, you can love it, you can leave it. They say you're nothing without it. I guess in a way, sort of like saying with his relationship that that he's nothing without it, and that they're saying that he's nothing without it, which in a way, he's sort of in a way proving them wrong, I guess. It's hard to exactly explain what's so great about it, I guess. And like, I'm definitely not doing this justice so far, but it's a great track that sort of expresses how he feels, and in a way how he's distracting himself to sort of instead of facing his problems in a way. I think that's the best way to say it. I could even explain this track. I think with What's the Use, another way to explain it is like him saying, you know, what's the point of even trying anymore? What's the point of trying to face it? You know, what is the use? What is the use of trying to face these things? You can either sort of try to bond with it in a way, a bond with your, I guess, like, not really bond with your problems, but face your problems, or you can just leave them behind. I guess I didn't really explain it as well the first time, but I think that's the best way you could really, that's the best thing you could really get from that track, is basically saying that what is the use in trying anymore? What, in a way, but in like a sort of funky, upbeat way, with the way it's all sort of, you know, mixed, and but also saying what's the use in trying to face these problems? What's the use in trying to do that? And he's distracting himself with other things in his life. The next track is called Perfecto. He says yeah a lot in this album.
Me up in the air and don't put me down. Seen it all unfold, sat back and watched.
Okay, so on that track, I felt like with it, Mac Miller was sort of talking about how, I guess the title's called Perfecto, so you could take that into account, of how on the outside he looks okay, he looks all right, he looks okay, but on the inside how he doesn't. But on the outside, he, I guess in a way, seems perfect. He seems like everything's fine, but on the inside, everything that's really consuming him, but then doesn't really seem to face those issues at the same time, as it seems like has been going out throughout this entire album so far. Okay, so the next track is called Self Care. The instrumentals on all these tracks are just great. That didn't sound too good. That part's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of clever in a way. Anyway. I like this. I like the switch up.
I didn't disconnect and upload. Watch it spin around. We just
It's so hypnotizing. So in this track, it feels like a lot more like Mac sort of telling us his idea of self-care, what he thinks his self-care is, like what he thinks he should do for his own self-care, basically ignoring his problems once again and sort of distracting himself from everything essentially, and just try in a sort of a way, just in a way gliding through the world instead of really facing anything, I guess is the best way to explain it. Okay, so the next track is called Wings, which is 4 minutes long. So, yeah, let's see.
Follow me, we on up and up. Remember when I owed $100? Now I look around.
On this song, it's sort of him talking about how he's not really trying to face once again, but in a way not really solving his problems and just breezing, just sort of breezing through the wind, breezing through life without trying to find a solution to anything, and sort of isolating himself in a way by saying that he just keeps to himself and he doesn't ask for help. He doesn't ask for people to help him at all. He just doesn't need people. He says he doesn't need people. He doesn't need anyone's company, and that he doesn't like need anyone to in a way help him, and sort of saying that he just keeps to himself and isolates himself with himself by having that mindset that he needs to be by him, that he just sort of not really in a way like fights him stuff by himself, but just breezes through stuff, and when he does have his problems, he doesn't have anyone to talk to about it, or because he isolates himself from other people. Okay, so the next track is called Ladders. The singing's improved on this one as well. So with this one, we kind of can see that he's sort of cracking a bit, I guess you could say, because he's sort of starting to realize what he's doing and how he knows that even if it does feel good, it's going to eventually come falling down. But then at the same time, it's sort of that feeling, that thought starts fading away throughout the song in its own way. And it's sort of a thought that kind of pops in his mind, and then he just is distracted again by it and just sort of tries to block that out of his mind and trying to make sure that that thought doesn't pop up anymore, even though it's in the hook, in sort of a way of realization of how, hey, he's realizing this is happening, but he's going to try to ignore that reality. The next track is called Small Worlds.
Till it ain't. I'm building up. I know I probably need to do better. Fuck whoever, keep my shit together. You never told till it ain't.
The singing on this isn't as great as it is on the other ones. It's nice.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10 I get it wrong. I can feel my fingers slipping in a motherfucking instant, I'll be gone.
The flow on this part is good. Once again, this is another really great track in the album where it's sort of him talking about and, trying to distract himself from things, trying to distract himself from his emotions, trying to sort of in a way, like, I guess in a way, somewhat acknowledge and sort of realize what he's doing, but at the same time, trying to hide from those emotions and trying to distract yourself from them, even if you do keep thinking about them. So the next one is Conversations, Part 1. I looked through the track list. There's no Part 2. So I don't know why it's called Part 1, but let's see what it is, I guess. I love the instrumentals. Like I said before, they're just so soothing and hypnotic. So in that one, it sort of felt like he was sort of talking about how he's made it to the top and how he's at the top of his life, and like as he said in the last track about saying that even though he has like it basically saying that even though he's rich, that you never told me being rich meant I'm alone, meant that I'm on my own, that I feel like I'm on my own because I'm the only one that's doing this. I guess that's in my life, but like, I guess sort of saying like not exactly that, but saying that even though he has all this money, even though it doesn't make you happy, and that's something that we always learn. That's something that we learn all the time, but no one ever. A lot of people just don't seem to acknowledge that. And then this one, he's not exactly talking about that, but he's more of talking about how that he made it from the top to where he is now. That he's at this top, he's at this peak in a way of where he is, I guess, and sort of saying that to make it to the top. You have to do, or else it's just another conversation. I don't think it exactly fits a ton with the themes. Maybe it's just me, but like I didn't see it as one that really added too much to the themes. Maybe it'll play in later with the elements to this album, but we'll see. Okay, the next one's called Dunno.
I wasn't even tripping, I said it's alright. Yeah. Goddamn, we was hit last night.
So soothing. In that track, you could definitely tell he was talking about and sort of encouraging the other person that he's talking to, saying, hey, instead of facing my emotions, instead trying to face this, wouldn't you rather get along? Wouldn't you rather just pretend it wasn't a problem? Wouldn't you rather pretend, instead of facing these problems, wouldn't you rather just ignore them and not face them fully? Exactly, I think is what I got from that song, is basically him saying, instead of us facing these problems, instead of facing these things that are going on with both of us, wouldn't you just rather pretend they don't exist? Wouldn't you rather just get along instead? Which it all builds up and adds on to the theme, and I think it's doing a really great job at building up this theme and emotion and the relatability of this entire album, and I can't wait for the next tracks and see how this all ends out. Okay, so the next one is called Jet Fuel, which is, I think, almost 6 minutes, and I think it might be the longest one, too, out of the entire album. Does this instrumental seriously go for, like, another 90 seconds? Okay, maybe it's making up for it. Okay, well, that was Jet Fuel. It's hard to, like, unpack a ton of it, but I will say it does add to the themes about him trying to avoid everything, trying to go into the clouds, sort of trying to not focus on everything, not trying to focus on his emotions, not trying to sort of drinking alcohol, driving around driving in a car or something like that, or just like anything, just to sort of get his mind off of what about the problems he really has to face and everything, and sort of not exactly facing them as much. Yeah, that's all I really got to say. It adds a lot to the themes. I would think that instrumentals are definitely different than the other ones a little bit at the beginning. I'm not saying they're repetitive or anything. I'm just saying that it's a nice switch up. So yeah, I think I do like this one. I really like this one. So the next one is called 2009. It's almost 6 minutes. It's another pretty long track. So let's see. Ooh, that violin. That violin's actually really nice. The thing is, the production on all these tracks is soothing, but it's not repetitive. They always find ways to find different beats to add to the soothing atmosphere. This track seems to be showing us that he's at peace, that he's sort of in this mindset where he is, in a way, sort of happy with himself. He's happy with what's going on. He seems to be at peace with everything that's happening to him. And that, I guess, it's not like 2009 no more. He's changed. He's evolved as a person. He's a different person now in his own way, and how he's settling down as a human being. And we see him evolve throughout this album, as we see him evolve and change a little bit throughout the course of the record, throughout the course of the whole thing throughout the course of this entire project, we see him evolve as a human being, and we're seeing this and how he's sort of becoming a different person in his own way. Okay, the next track is called So It Goes, which is 5 minutes long. Well, I'm kind of lost with words in a way, because the whole album, it wasn't exactly what I was expecting, really. I wasn't expecting something quite like this. I feel like I should start with the production, and then I'll get into like what I think about the themes. The production is it's not exactly heavily produced, but it's so soothing and atmospheric with the production, with how sort of weird and odd it is. And they switch it up a lot with like the way things are with the production, like the different instrumentals, the different instrumentals, the way it sounds, the mixing even. They just sort of switch that up so it's a little bit more interesting each time. And so that the production still somewhat keeps you interested as well. And I think that also just works to its ability. It works to create the soothing atmosphere, and it works well. Also, Mac Miller's voice, I think, is really good. I don't think it's as great as his voice on Circles, but I think with this album, his voice is just so calming and in a way like so effective to how he sort of explains helps us sort of like go on this journey with him throughout this album, throughout what we're experiencing, and we experience everything along with him, obviously. So the way they express it, I think, is very well done. Another thing about the album is the fact that it's the way the themes are conveyed, I think, are phenomenal, especially with the whole album. The whole time he's sort of trying to not blockade, but he's sort of trying to not think about all the things that worry him, all the things that are sort of bothering him the whole time, the things that are like issues with him. He tries to use all these distractions instead of facing his emotions, facing the consequences, and then he ends up somewhat facing them at the end, and then is at peace. That's when he's at peace. That's when he ends up sort of coming to terms with everything that's going on, coming to terms with everything within himself, within everything that's been going on in his life, knowing that, acknowledging these issues, acknowledging them as a whole, and realizing that there will be issues along the road in his life, and it's better not to ignore them and to sort of face them and face them as well as you can, I guess, is the best way to really sort of explain that. It all creates this odd atmosphere. And even like if there's like 90 seconds of a song that's an instrumental song, like occasionally like it's like there's an end where it's like too long and it bothers me a bit, but for the most part it doesn't really bother me at all. The mixing is phenomenal. I love the way I mean, I don't absolutely love the way it's mixed, but I really like at points the way it's mixed, like that at the end with the vocals when Mac Miller is like sort of like at the end of one of the songs when they're sort of like using this weird sort of, not really weird, but like the way they tune his voice, I think at the end of one of the songs is like when he's sort of like giving like these sort of ad libs, and it's like that 9-second song, sort of just to keep you interested, keep you intrigued with what's going on. I will say there's some songs that could be cut down a bit, and they definitely didn't need to be as long as they were, but it's definitely a great album that sort of shows us Mac, sort of helps us get to know Mac more, and to help us understand about like what's been going on with him and him avoiding this stuff. Why is he avoiding this stuff? And then him coming to terms with it at the end. I love it. It's a really phenomenal album. I want to discover more of Mac's discography. I don't know if they're as great as this. I don't know if that is true. Maybe there are some, but yeah, I really had a great time listening to this album. I will probably listen to more Mac Miller, more of Mac Miller songs, but not songs, albums. And yeah, that's really all I gotta say. I'll see you guys in the next one.